Have you ever had those moments where everything feels perfect, like you're finally at peace? You know, the kind of moments where it feels like everything is aligned, and for once, the world is exactly as it should be. The joy of a win, the high of a good day, the excitement of something new. But then, almost as quickly as it arrived, it fades away. You're left with this nagging feeling. Why can't happiness stick around for long? What happens to it? Why does it slip through your fingers, no matter how hard you try to hold on? We've all experienced it. That fleeting, elusive feeling of happiness. It comes when we least expect it, often unannounced, and for a short while, it feels like everything is perfect. You feel on top of the world, in sync with yourself and the universe. But just when you think it's going to last, it slips away. The joy, the contentment, that sense of peace, they fade so quickly, leaving you questioning, why does happiness feel so temporary? Why is it that despite our best efforts, those moments never seem to last? It's as if you're holding something precious, but no matter how tightly you grasp it, it vanishes. And the harder you try to hold on, the more elusive it becomes. Soon, you're left wondering if happiness is even meant to last. It's like chasing a shadow, always there, just out of reach. So you ask yourself, what's stopping me from staying happy? Is it just the inevitable ups and downs of life? Or is there something deeper at play here, something we've been ignoring? This isn't just about what's happening outside of you, about your circumstances. Sure, life throws challenges at us, and some moments might feel harder than others. But there's something more to it. If you take a step back and really think about it, you might realize that the way we view happiness itself could be what's keeping it at arm's length. We chase after happiness, desperately wanting to hold on, but it keeps escaping. We've been taught that happiness is a prize to be won, something that arrives when the stars align perfectly. But what if it's not about waiting for those perfect moments? What if the problem lies in how we think about happiness, how we chase it, and why it always seems to slip away? Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions." But here's the thing. What happens when our actions don't seem to align with lasting happiness? What happens when we try our best, when we make the right decisions, and yet the happiness we seek doesn't stick? We put in the effort, and still, it feels like we're running in circles. The problem might not be that we're doing something wrong, but that we're seeking happiness in the wrong places, or under the wrong terms. What if the very pursuit of happiness is keeping it just beyond our reach? You see, happiness isn't something that can be constantly held onto. Instead, it's a fleeting chemical reaction in your brain, a rush of dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. These chemicals flood your system when you experience something pleasurable. The rush of a new achievement, the warmth of a loving relationship, or the thrill of a new experience. But here's the catch. Those chemicals are short-lived. The high fades, and before long, you find yourself searching for the next burst of happiness, chasing the high that always seems to slip through your fingers. Think about it. When you achieve something, maybe a promotion at work, the success of a new project, or a personal victory, you feel that rush of joy, that sense of pride, that euphoria, is a natural reaction from your brain. But it doesn't last. The moment you bask in that happiness, the chemical spikes are already beginning to level off. And then what happens? You feel the dip, that emptiness that follows the high. It's not that you don't deserve to feel happy. It's just that happiness tied to external achievements, promotions, money, relationships, is always temporary. It's like a wave. It builds, it peaks, and then it crashes. Every high has a low. Every success is followed by a sense of void once the excitement fades. You've likely experienced it, that exhilarating moment followed by a quiet, uneasy drop. And suddenly you find yourself asking, what now? You've reached your goal, but the feeling doesn't last. It's fleeting, and soon enough you're left looking for the next thing to fill that void. The more you chase happiness from the outside, through accolades, possessions, or the approval of others, the more you condition your mind to expect happiness, but also to fear its departure. You live in a cycle of highs and lows, constantly chasing the next achievement, but never really feeling settled. The truth is, when happiness is tied to external factors, it becomes dependent on things you can't always control. You work hard for a promotion, but what happens when the job changes or the novelty fades? You seek out a new relationship, but what happens when it goes through a tough time? It's important to realize that happiness, when it's tied to external factors, will always be fleeting. the satisfaction it gives you is temporary, and the constant chase for more only leads to more dissatisfaction. Lasting happiness doesn't come from external validation or achievements. It comes from within. And that's the kind of happiness that sticks, the kind that doesn't depend on how much you've achieved or how others perceive you, but on how you perceive yourself and your life. So, let's dive deeper into how you can cultivate this kind of lasting happiness, one that doesn't fade but grows stronger over time. But even when you start to experience that deeper sense of happiness, you may find yourself sabotaging it. You've likely had moments when everything feels aligned, the peace, the joy, the sense of accomplishment. But how often does that happiness feel fragile? How often do you find yourself thinking, "This won't last," or "I don't deserve this"? It's as though, just when you start to enjoy the moment, doubt creeps in. These thoughts don't appear out of nowhere. They're deeply rooted in past wounds, fears, and self-doubt. Even in the midst of something good, there's a part of you that braces for it to unravel, that questions whether you really deserve to feel this way, or wonders when things will take a turn for the worse. It's not just the fear of losing something great that disturbs your peace. It's the deeper fear of happiness itself. You start to worry that this moment won't last, that the joy you're experiencing is temporary, and maybe even undeserved. So instead of fully immersing yourself in it, you begin to hold back. You doubt. You start preparing for things to fall apart, even before they have a chance to. If you've ever had an amazing day, only to find yourself filled with anxiety about what could go wrong the next day, you've experienced this fear firsthand. The fear that happiness, this fleeting emotion, isn't yours to keep, that it's too good to be true. So, instead of fully embracing it, you push it away. Consider a time when you were excited about something new, maybe a promotion, a relationship, or an opportunity that seemed to promise everything you wanted. In the beginning, you felt unstoppable. Your heart raced with excitement, and it felt like the possibilities were endless. But then, somewhere deep within, doubt began to whisper, "This could go wrong." Suddenly, that excitement starts to fade, and you're left with that familiar sense of unease. The fear creeps in, the fear that this happiness is just a fleeting moment, an illusion that will burn out before you can really enjoy it. That's the fear of loss. It's the belief that happiness is something you're not meant to hold on to, that it's just a brief visitor in your life, not a permanent part of it. This fear is what's stopping you from holding on to happiness for long. You're not rejecting happiness itself, but the idea that it can last. It's a self-sabotaging pattern that stems from believing good things, especially happiness, can't endure. You've been conditioned to think that joy is temporary, and that the highs are followed by inevitable lows. This fear, this self-sabotage, holds you back from fully embracing the happiness that's already here. The truth is, you've been taught to push away what feels good because you don't believe it will last. And until you break this cycle, the happiness you seek will always feel just out of reach. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca wisely said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." This insight highlights how our fears of loss, especially when it comes to happiness, are often exaggerated in our minds. You create a mental script of potential disaster, even when happiness is right in front of you. By accepting the impermanence of joy and learning to embrace it fully, without fear of its departure, you free yourself from this cycle of self-sabotage. It's time to stop bracing for the worst and start living fully in the best moments, allowing happiness to settle in without the weight of doubt pulling it away. But even as you try to embrace happiness, there's another layer we must address. Society has conditioned you to believe that happiness is something you achieve, like a goal you can reach once you check all the right boxes: success, possessions, validation. You've probably seen those perfect social media feeds or heard the well-meaning but misguided advice to work harder for happiness. There's this constant message being pushed that happiness is something you earn, something you can buy, something you can achieve through success, validation, or the next big thing. It's almost like there's this invisible checklist that says, if you just reach this point, happiness will follow. But here's the truth. Happiness is not something you can simply achieve by meeting external standards. It's not about accolades, stuff, or fitting into someone else's mold of success. True happiness comes from accepting where you are right now, embracing who you are right now, It's not something to chase, it's something to create from within. As the modern philosopher Alain de Botton once said, "Success is a journey, not a destination, and happiness is the companion of the journey, not the result of an achievement." This is exactly where society has it wrong. It leads you to believe happiness is a destination that can only be reached through external markers. But it's really about embracing the journey, regardless of the destination. Now think about it. How often do you compare yourself to others? Whether it's social media, the people around you, or even people you don't know, we're constantly measuring our progress against theirs. You might think, "I should be further along," or "Why don't I have that yet?" This comparison steals your joy, and it makes you question your own happiness. The issue with comparing yourself is that you're not seeing the whole picture. What you see is just the highlight reel, the moments people choose to show. What you don't see is the behind-the-scenes struggle, the doubts, and the challenges that everyone faces. Yet, we let those moments define how we feel about our own lives. The truth is, your happiness is just as valid as anyone else's, no matter where you are in life. It doesn't need to fit into anyone else's standard. It doesn't need to be approved by others. When you stop comparing your happiness to someone else's, you start to realize that the only standard for happiness that matters is the one you set for yourself. So, next time you feel the urge to compare, remind yourself, your happiness is yours alone. It's shaped by your values, your journey, and your ability to embrace where you are right now. Don't let society or anyone else dictate how you should feel about your happiness. Create it from within. But there's something even deeper at play: the ego. The ego thrives on external validation, drawing its sense of self-worth from the praise of others, the recognition we crave, and the approval we seek. It tells you that your happiness is dependent on how others see you, how they validate your success, and how much recognition you receive. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow offers a deeper insight into this. He said, "The shadow is the part of us we are afraid to face." The more we chase happiness through the validation of others, the less we are willing to face the true source of happiness, our own authentic selves. Instead of acknowledging our fears, insecurities, and doubts, we bury them, thinking that by avoiding them, we can continue to chase after external validation. But in doing so, we unknowingly sabotage our ability to experience lasting happiness. When you depend on others to validate your happiness, you become trapped in a cycle of overthinking. You start questioning the moments when you feel good, the moments when you feel content. Instead of simply enjoying the joy you're experiencing, you begin to ask, "Is this good enough? Or should I be more successful?" These thoughts steal your peace. They create noise in your mind, and the ego's voice is the loudest. It tells you that what you have isn't enough, that you need more to be happy. But what if happiness didn't need to be validated by anyone else? What if you could experience joy without questioning it, without measuring it against some external standard? The more you chase happiness from outside sources, the more you will overthink and distort it. The true key to lasting happiness is to silence the noise of the ego and embrace the peace within. Stop looking for permission to be happy from others, and start giving yourself permission to be content, just as you are. To cultivate lasting happiness, it's important to shift your mindset and slow down. Happiness doesn't have to be a race or a destination. In fact, the more you chase it, the more it slips away. Instead of running after it, focus on simply being present. Mindfulness plays a vital role here. It's about stopping for a moment, acknowledging the joy that's already in your life, and allowing yourself to fully experience it without rushing to the next thing. By embracing mindfulness, you break free from the cycle of constant seeking and start truly living in the present. Happiness, in this light, transforms from something you need to chase to something you can experience right now. And when you embrace this shift, happiness becomes less about chasing after it and more about experiencing it in every moment, making it more lasting and fulfilling. As Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If you're always chasing the next high or measuring happiness by external achievements, you're missing the point. The quality of your thoughts, your ability to be present and content in the now, is what allows true happiness to settle in. But mindfulness alone isn't enough. You also need self-compassion. How many times have you been hard on yourself for not being happy enough or not achieving everything you thought you should? We are so quick to judge ourselves for not living up to some external expectation of what happiness should look like. But the truth is, happiness doesn't come from perfection. It comes from learning to accept and love where you are right now, flaws and all. Happiness isn't a constant state of perfection. It's a series of moments, some good, some bad, and everything in between. By treating yourself with kindness, you allow yourself to experience joy without the weight of guilt or judgment. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, understood this well. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-compassion is about mastering your own mind and emotions, not allowing them to be ruled by external expectations. By practicing self-compassion, you give yourself the freedom to be happy, regardless of your circumstances. And let's talk about perfection. Perfectionism is a killer of happiness. It makes you feel like you need everything to be ideal before you can be happy. But waiting for everything to line up perfectly is a trap. Life will never be perfect. You will never have the perfect moment to feel joy. That's why action over perfection is essential. As Epictetus wisely said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it. Instead of waiting for life to be perfect before you allow yourself to feel happy, take imperfect action. Find joy in the small things, the simple moments, the little wins, and the quiet pleasures. Don't wait for the world to be perfect. Allow yourself to feel happiness even in the midst of imperfection. Happiness is not a destination. It's the way you engage with life right now. So now, as you reflect on this, think about your own life. What's one thing you've been doing that might be sabotaging your happiness? Is it the fear of imperfection, the need for external validation, or perhaps the pressure of always chasing something more? Ask yourself, how can you start making space for happiness in a way that feels authentic to you, without the need for validation or perfection? Drop a comment below and share one small thing you're going to do today to allow yourself to experience more joy. And remember, it doesn't have to be a huge change. Sometimes the smallest steps lead to the most profound shifts. If this message resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We're just getting started, and together we'll continue to explore the path to a more authentic and lasting happiness.